Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first installment of Black Joy Voices. This is not a podcast. I'm going to exclaim, disclaimer. This is actually a session to unpack and bring back the concept of Black joy in people of color in the world and in South Africa. And today we have the amazing Mo Lishomwa. Did I pronounce it right?
That's correct, yeah.
Very ecstatic to have her today. I'm super excited. I met her during the course of this week, and I was like, listen, this is what I actually want to do with you, and she approved of it. So, yeah, welcome
Thank
to
you.
the first installment of this amazing show that we're going to continue doing during the course of the years. And Mo.
Thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, doing really good.
Are you doing?
Nice to be here.
I'm glad you're here in the jungle. We're in the forest currently. So when you think of Black joy, what comes to mind? Like, what is your perception of Black joy?
There's two things. First of all, for me, the first thing that comes to mind is laughter. Because for years, Black people genuinely have joy and laughter and fun in all sorts of situations.
Yeah.
That's the first one. And also the big thing you see on the internet is, when you see the kids laughing and there's all these montages of just laughter.
Yeah.
And sometimes for me, when I'm having a really rubbish day, can I say shit?
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
When I'm having a really shit day.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just go and listen and watch people laughing on the internet.
Yeah.
The other thing is, partly because of where I'm coming from, is we also find joy in situations that aren't always joyful.
Yeah.
So, for example, I will be honest, in 2020, when there was that whole big Black Lives Matter thing, I was in London at the time.
Yeah.
A friend of mine's a photographer, and he went out and captured a lot of the moments that were happening during those protests.
Yeah.
And in amongst all of that, a whole bunch of kids started doing the candy dance and having a really good time.
What's the candy dance?
Oh, the electric slide, the whole old school shuffle. You tend to see it at
for real?
weddings. You tend to see it at parties.
For real?
But in the middle of a protest, hundreds of people just started doing this dance.
That's
and
crazy.
It was a really serious thing, but it brought a different energy. It brought a different light.
Yeah.
So for me, joy from Black people comes in all sorts of situations. But for me, it stems from, I guess, just as a people, wherever you are in the world.
Yeah.
We've always found happiness and joy in any situation.
Which is true.
That, to me, is where the Black joy comes from.
Yeah.
But for me, mainly when you said do this podcast, this conversation, says it, not podcast.
Yeah.
I just thought of laughter. I just thought of, I laugh my head off with my friends.
Yeah.
At least once a week, once a day. Those big belly laughs that make your ribs hurt.
I mean,
that's important to me. That happens quite a lot in my life. So that to me is also what I think about the joy.
because when I met you, I was like, I think she's actually a very joyful person. You were giving me very good vibrations, positive energy. I never really felt out of place when I was surrounded by you and your aura.
Oh, thank you.
At that time. So I thought, come on, this is God-given. Maybe this is God.
I felt the same. You have very positive energy.
Thank you. I try. Yo, dude, it's hectic, eh? South Africa, we don't have electricity. I think I spent a week. I didn't get to bath or anything. So it's what is going on?
Cold showers.
I tried the cold shower thing. I'm too skinny. Skinny people worldwide, But yeah, it's like I'm hearing you say that people around you bring the most joy.
Yeah.
So when do you practice parts of joy in your life? On a day-to-day, in a monthly basis, when do you feel you practice the most joy?
I think my joy actually is a daily thing. I'm quite intentional as a person. And one of the things in the morning I wake up and the first thing is I actually think about how my day's going to go well. You could feel crap, but to me it's okay, get your mind in the right place.
Yeah.
So my practice of joy is, first of all, is gratitude, and from gratitude to me comes joy.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly is my friends are huge, and family are a big sense of my joy. So again, it's connecting with them.
Yeah.
That's a daily thing for me. There's certain people not to say people all the time, but I'll reach out to certain people every day.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? How's your day going? What's up? Prime example, the other day I got a text actually from my mom, who was here recently with me, and her idea is, she sends me a picture of her sitting out drinking wine, hanging out with her girlfriends, and she's like, hey, look at us chilling on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And that made me feel good. So it's almost it's that intentional thing and exchanging things that are positive.
Yeah.
And even when things are not going well, we still try and do that. As a group of friends, as a family as well. That's how we vibe.
I mean, as Black people, do you think that's like, it's a big thing for us to create joy, like in our spaces and in how we navigate spaces?
I personally think it's innate.
It's innate, right?
I think I've lived in different places.
Yeah.
I've come across Black people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And to me, there's a commonality that I've seen across the world.
Mm-hmm.
One, it's welcoming. It's about joyfulness. It's about connecting.
Yeah.
The conversation we had.
Yeah.
That to me is something that if you give out the right energy, that's what comes back.
That is very true.
And I've personally, I've seen that, and I've also had other people bring me out of my darkness when I don't expect it. Even for you, I didn't expect to be sitting here.
True.
And I woke up this morning, I was like, okay, great, I've got to get my shit together. I've got to go there and see what this is about.
Yeah.
So that's really good for me.
I mean, that's a very positive way to look at like our first meeting, you know.
Yeah, but I try because that's how you get the best out of people.
Yeah.
To me, that's what's more important. That to me is the most important, because I think innately, as Black people, there's a goodness, there's a joy. To me, that's an innate thing, and I think all the places I've been, it's been a common thread. I'm sitting in a cab. I remember sitting in a cab in LA and having a long conversation with the cab driver. And we ended up laughing, and I knew his story, he knew mine. And that's kind of a natural thing.
So you're telling me about the first time you met Lenny Kravitz. I don't...
gosh, I was
that
a
story,
child then.
that
wow.
story, I mean, I can't forget it because it was so funny. Like, I was just sitting there like, this is insane.
Yeah,
like,
those
you know,
days when I used to do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear it again if you don't mind.
I called myself a baby at the time.
Yeah.
And I was working with a band.
Yeah.
And we were on tour. It was a private gig, right?
Yes.
In someone booked Lenny Kravitz, and the band I worked with is the second, and Skunk and Nancy, actually, it's 3 bands.
Yes. I love Skunk and Nancy.
Skunk and Nancy, and The Influence is the band I worked with.
Yeah.
And I used to smoke a lot of weed then.
Yeah.
And
the Greens.
Yeah,
I
used to be one of them. And I was in my bedroom getting ready, and he walked past, and obviously I was sitting behind the bed, so you couldn't see me because I was on the floor.
Yeah.
And he kind of leaned over and he goes, "You're too young to be smoking that shit. You should stop."
Jesus Christ.
And I was like, it's Lenny Kravitz telling me to stop doing that. And that, to be honest, I was like, oh my God, put it away, and was like, okay, great, I'm going to do this properly. I'm going to get my shit together for the next 2 days and do what he said.
Yeah.
So it was kind of that kind of vibe, but it was it was one of that thing of, it's Lenny Kravitz, but also again, that was more than joy, it was about care. Do you understand?
Okay, let's revert back, right?
Yeah.
So we spoke about when you were a baby.
Yeah.
And you were dapping your joint.
Yeah.
Because Lenny was like,
don't do this stuff.
Going crazy, you know. He's like, he's like father figure.
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. Yeah.
It felt like a father figure, just like appearing from the skies, you know. So, just please tell me, like, what happened after you dabbed? Like, what was that emotion that you had when you realized that, oh shit, I need to get my shit together?
It was a case for me at the time. It was a case of, I have to pull my shit. This is professional now. Yeah, I mean, I know you're on tour.
Yeah.
You have fun on tours and stuff, but coming from him and the venue where we were, it wasn't like I'm like, wow, okay, I really do need to be professional. It felt more about professionalism than I shouldn't smoke. And he was like, you're too young for that.
Yeah.
And I just thought, okay. When I didn't stop smoking.
Yeah.
But during that tour,
no,
I didn't. And I was like, okay, and I went to bed on time, and it was literally like I was with my parents.
Yeah.
But he never said anything again in that way. It just became normal chit chat and what have you.
Yeah.
But I was like, I was more of an assistant at the time. So I was the one who was on point to make sure everything was in place.
Yes, of course.
So I was like, well, if I'm high,
How I'm
might
actually
not
going to remember.
do this properly.
Yeah.
I'd winged it in other tours, but I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is now another level, because I'd never toured with that standard. That was when
Of
he was at
course.
the top of his
Game, prime,
at his prime. So I
Yeah.
was just like, okay,
Let's
get it together.
That's crazy.
And I did until we went on to the rest of Europe. He left.
Yeah.
The rest of the tour, I was back to my
To
self.
shenanigans.
But the
I'm
thing
kidding.
is, the band I was with,
Yeah.
they were much older than me as well. They looked after me. So I kind of had that leeway because I was with people who looked out for me.
Of course.
And they're still my friends to this day.
That's beautiful.
So, you know, it was one of those... It was a light bulb moment.
Yeah,
And
a
to be
coup
honest,
de fruit.
it did, yeah, it planted something. And it
Yeah.
did mean I did change up how I was a lot.
Yeah.
I was always on point, always on time, did everything I was meant to do. But in the evening, I'd be like,
Of
'cause
course.
I used to smoke with other band members, right?
Yeah, because
But
you're trying to
they were like,
decompress.
yeah, but even they were like, okay, coming from him,
Yeah.
let's get our shit together.
Damn.
So
that
it was
means,
interesting, yeah.
So that means you guys were already hitting there. Like,
We did okay.
you guys were hitting.
We were going in the right direction, and
Okay.
overall, we did pretty okay. I mean, that was, it was the 90s. They were pretty, at the time, they became one of the biggest bands in the UK
Yes,
in
yes,
the
yes.
90s. I don't know if you know Acid Jazz.
Acid Jazz.
Yeah, that scene, it was
Oh, yes.
like one of the biggest
I
acid
remember.
jazz bands.
Yes,
at
I
the time.
remember. I remember Acid Jazz. Beautiful, beautiful sound.
So I was a journalist, that's how I met them. I interviewed them,
yeah.
and I let them review my piece.
So, what I really want to know about now
Yeah.
is your journey. You know, you tell me that you're a baby, you know, when you were young, you're passionate, you're creative. What drove you? Was it God or was it something else? I think,
For me,
Please
I
just
think
tell us more.
it was something else.
okay.
I think, I know.
Yeah.
For example, you talk about the God question.
Mm-hmm.
My mother is religious. She goes to
Yeah.
church. Her parents are very much in the church.
Yeah.
My father was also brought up by a pastor father,
Mm-hmm.
but he hated church. So he
That's
used to run
crazy.
away from church every Sunday.
Yeah.
And his dad would beat him. And he said, one day I was quick enough to run away and I never went to church again. He only started going to church because when he met my mum.
Yeah.
But my mother took us to church. He
Mm-hmm.
would always give us these sound bites,
Yeah.
which actually I've now realised are quite zen.
Yeah.
Like, there's no sweet without sweat. And he would say the silent vessel makes the most noise, and he'd come up with all these big things.
Mm-hmm.
And he always encouraged me.
Yeah.
And my mother did too. So, for example, my mum she let me draw on the walls. There was one wall in the house I was allowed to draw on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you like Basquiat
And I was with my
It just-
pencils from when I was a kid.
for real?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you grew up in an African home
I grew up in an African home.
and you were drawing on the walls.
My mother allowed me to draw on the walls.
That's
and my father
crazy.
he didn't like it.
Yeah,
But my
of
mother would
course.
just a small section of the wall.
That's crazy.
I used to draw on the walls.
And you didn't get a beating?
Once.
Okay.
And then my father protected. He says, you cannot suppress this.
Yeah.
She's just doing it naturally, so let her do it.
Of course.
So I was allowed to do it.
That's crazy.
And then I just kept drawing, and I went and studied art. And
Yeah.
I was doing art lessons from when I was 4.
Oh, that's crazy. So your
until-
parents like pushed you.
Yeah, but my mother's
to
also
kind of-
creative mind. She also does
Oh,
design,
okay.
but she's never been allowed to express it.
Yeah.
So in a way, it was like, okay, go ahead and do it. But I wanted to go all the way, but
Whoa.
typical African parents, how are you going to work?
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. So it's always
Obviously.
something I've gone back to, something I've always done.
Yeah. Do you still draw like to this day?
Yeah, I went back to art school.
Oh,
I went
that's
back
cool.
to art school 4 years ago because
Oh,
I
wow.
never studied it. So I went back to study.
Yeah.
But
And
I've
how was
always
that?
done
Like
it.
how did that like impact you
It
in
was-
a
It was
sense?
fun. I mean, it was in my own time. It was
Oh,
on a
okay.
weekend. So I basically didn't have a weekend for 2 years.
Oh wow.
So I was
Hectic.
going to art school.
Yeah.
But it was the encouragement that drove me.
Mm-hmm.
Later on in life, I would say when I found my own way,
Yeah.
I took on a lot of, I guess, what you may call Buddhist thinking,
Mm-hmm.
which is more about being honest to yourself and being there for others and looking for the happiness and the joy and the help,
Yeah.
of others.
Yeah.
And creativity is a really big thing in that,
Mm-hmm. It is.
in that way of life.
It is.
And so that's always fueled me, because to me, creativity connects people, regardless
wow.
of language,
True.
regardless of a lot of things.
True.
So I would say it's It's encouragement from my parents. It's my own drive. And to be honest, I went through life of having, when I was working, if I was in an environment that wasn't creative enough,
Yeah.
I would feel it.
Yeah, of course.
But at the same time, if I was in an environment that was crazy,
and how did you
creative,
overcome that? Like having to work in an environment that was a bit draining as a
I'd
creative.
leave. I would leave.
So you just resigned.
I would just resign.
And how did that work?
I figured it out, man. I figured it out. I remember walking out of a job once because I was 2 minutes late and my boss screamed at me and I went, well, I'm out. And I remember leaving and going, I've got no job. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I hated that job.
Yeah.
And I remember ringing friends, do you know of any work? And then I wasn't living at home and I had to ring my parents and say, I have no job.
Yeah.
I walked out and I have no money.
Hectic.
And my dad was like, figure it out. He goes, we're here, but figure it out. And
That's
it comes
crazy.
from that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And again, to me, it's, we're talking about joy. I had people who were there for me, who always supported me. I mean, I told you the certain person who put me on my first music job.
Yeah.
He was there for me. And he's one of the few people who, he takes no nonsense.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's like, you're good enough. You figure it out.
Yeah.
You've got a positive energy. You'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
within 3 weeks, I was freelancing. I figured out how to start on my own.
Yeah.
I was just ringing people. And I started off doing stuff for virtually nothing.
Oh, man.
And then you build yourself up.
Of course.
And I've always lived by the mantra, if you're as good as the last job you did.
Yeah, definitely.
I've always lived by that.
So you were basically as good as the last jobs you did.
Now,
And you
I
just
think,
like-
now that's how I was. I was very single-minded about it.
Okay.
But I think when I had a lot, I for whatever reason, when I was thinking back over the years,
Yeah.
especially when I was talking about 2020, I had less fear. For whatever reason, I was really less fearful when I was younger.
Yeah.
I really
You told me about dancing on a pedestal.
I used to be a podium dancer.
Yeah, you was
I
on
podium
podiums
danced.
and
Yeah, I did
you like
podium
going
dance.
crazy with it. Like
That's how we earned money. I was a student.
Yeah.
You have to live.
That's how you were scouted.
Yeah, I was in clubs all the time.
And that's
Not
the
necessarily
crazy thing.
podium dancing, but I was in clubs all
Yeah.
the time, except Mondays.
So
Monday
was
was my
like
day off.
crazy. So you spent Tuesday to Sunday.
Yeah. We even had a club that I called Church
What?
because there was a group of us who were there every Sunday. We didn't even have to know who was going and who wasn't knowing.
Yeah.
We just knew everyone who was going to be there.
So you guys you were baptizing the
We just turned
atmosphere.
up. We just turned up. And
Yeah.
were all there. But they were all people who now, if you look at what they're doing, they're creatives. They're
Yeah.
in the music. That was in London, and London had a scene.
Of
and
course.
It was a really huge scene. To be honest, it's quite similar to what I'm seeing here.
Like in Johannesburg.
Yeah, there's an energy here that's really similar to what I had when I was coming up.
So like a London.
I mean, it's an
Or-
energy. It's a positivity. It's an energy. It's a
Yeah.
connection. Talk about joy. It's there.
Yeah. That's true.
And
There's a lot of joy in
it's
South
not,
Africa.
It's not. I haven't seen that anywhere else
Really?
since I was part of something in London, and that's no lie.
And you've traveled like the world.
I haven't seen that. I mean, okay. In the 90s in the US, I think
Mhm.
there was a movement happening there. It was
Yeah, yeah.
different. The music was coming up. But now, it's something I haven't seen.
That's crazy.
The energy I haven't seen.
That's
I mean, of course, you have it in pockets everywhere. But
Of
what
course.
I'm seeing here, maybe I'm in a bubble. But
Most probably.
but I'm seeing something that I haven't seen elsewhere.
Because everyone says Johannesburg is like the capital of the epicenter of parties, the epicenter of the vibe and the culture. So I can imagine you seeing that when you get here, having to also leave the country and go to Zambia, go to London, come back. Like the circulation overall is just.
But there's an energy here that I think, and you're in it.
I am.
So I don't know if you recognize what it is.
I do. I truly do. And I embrace it.
But yeah, I mean, I last time I was here, I met people who work in stores.
Yeah.
Who has led on to all sorts of different conversations.
Yeah.
But again, it's just talking to people, and people
That's
here
true.
are open, and the creativity here is fierce.
It is. It's very fierce.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we have so many things we can be inspired by. We look at, like, the cultures in township, inspiration. We come back to the suburbs. So everything is, like, super
Yeah.
inspiring, super... It's like a collective effort.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily a collective effort. It's like we're all getting inspired by each other,
Yeah.
producing product that's going to inspire